Hi, this is Jim, and I'm not sure you have gotten a chance to read Teach Like a Pirate. I did get a chance to read that, and maybe you've been so busy you didn't get a chance to pick up this great resource for teachers. And so I want to give you a little summary today that will just give you a quick overview so you don't have to read the book, or perhaps you can read it later. But you can get right on adding all these treasures to your teaching this year and all the adventure and enthusiasm that goes with it. So, first of all, the book was written by Dave Burgess. Dave is an extremely creative guy that was once a teacher, and he started to get some ideas about how he could have more impact on his class. And so he came up with the PIRATE acronym. P is for parrot or pirate. No, it's for passion. And Dave tells a story about going for a walk with his son, and they encounter this man who points out a hawk that's up in the tree, tells them what kind of hawk it is, what the hawk eats, and begins to tell them about 15 species of birds that are in the park. Dave points out that he had no interest in birds or hawks, but that he was enraptured by the man's presentation, and he listened. And he said that he could have even heard the man talk for hours about birds. Why? Because the man was passionate about his subject. Dave says we must approach teaching with the same passion, and even things that we're not passionate about, we need to generate passion in order to teach. Basically, pirates can't teach without passion, and pirates are pretty passionate about things like parrots and rum, but that's another subject. So anyhow, the next letter is immersion. If you're going to play the part, you have to really get into it. And Dave uses an illustration about a swimming pool. He said if someone told you when you were standing on the deck of the pool that you should focus on the pool, you could do that from the deck. But he says that we don't want to just teach kids to focus, and as teachers we don't want to just be focused on the topic. He said if the person said immerse yourself in the pool, that would require that you get wet. And teachers need to get wet, get in, get your hands dirty, get in the midst of it. He told another story about teaching his kids about canyons and all this kind of thing. And here he was divided, doing works and coming up with blogs from his home office. Finally, he said, what am I doing? He packed the kids up, put them in the car, and took them out to these great places and got in the middle of it. And he said even he forgets sometimes about the importance of immersing yourself in the topic or the subject matter. And that brings us to our next letter, which, by the way, is a pirate's favorite. You're right. It's R. And it's for rapport. And you need to develop relationship with your students. You cannot teach them well without being in a relationship. And so Dave spends time, he says his first 3 days are his most important days with the class. And so even though he wants to get to his content, and he talks a lot about how we need to be careful not to be too focused on standardized tests and scores, because we're not teaching test scores, we're teaching students, and they can't learn unless you are in a relationship with them. So his day 1, 2, and 3 are just great things that he's built. We need to do the same. Day 1, he's got a sign on his door. It says, you've heard the stories. Are you ready for the experience? A big, exciting sign. And then when he brings the kids in, he's focused on what have you heard about this class and how awesome it is and what are you looking forward to, and a lot more on that day 1. But it starts with this big sign, and he's really built up the experience. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but it makes us step up. Day 2, he gets out some Play-Doh. It's called the Play-Doh assignment. And instead of getting right into the books and learning, make something that tells me about yourself. And then he's working the aisles and talking to the kids and getting to know them. Really focused on their names over and over again. That's so important. You cannot teach without knowing their names, getting their nickname right, how you're going to write it. Especially in Title I schools, the names can be long, they can be foreign, and we need to know them so that we communicate to them that we care. Because as you've heard before, I don't think it's in Dave's book, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. That's right. And then day 3, it's like a halftime talk. Maybe these kids haven't done well in other classes, and he wants to give them a reset. You can do whatever you want. So he has this very inspirational talk about, this is a new chance for you. You don't know me. I don't know you. If you want to hit it out of the park, you can hit it out of the park. You determine your destiny. And so that brings us to A. And A for his pirate acronym is Ask and Analyze. He talks about a teacher that once came to him and said, how do I come up with these great ideas? How can I get the ideas? How can I be as creative as you? I want to get my kids out of the classroom. I want to have experiences outside of the classroom. And Dave said that the man wasn't asking the right questions. He quotes Tony Robbins, and he says that the power of change and success comes in asking the right questions. The man should have been asking, how do I get my students out of the classroom? If he asked the right questions, you'll get the right answers, and they're all based upon creativity. And then after you've come up with great ideas, you have to analyze them and make them better. He talks about how he keeps reworking his favorite topics and discussing what makes them work, what's not working, and reworks them, makes them better. Some he throws out, and that's important. Asking and analyzing, constantly reworking, revising, and refitting your best lessons. And that brings us to T, which is transformation. And he talks about transformation by asking two questions. Would your students come to class if it wasn't required? What a great question to ask. Could you get students to come if it wasn't required, if it wasn't necessary for their subject matter or their grade? And then his other question is even better. Would kids pay to come? Would they pay to come to your class? And he tries to ask, are there lessons that you think people would come to? And he points out that teachers even visit his class on days that he's doing particular lessons. And that's the kind of enthusiasm and these classroom experiences that you want to have, these very dynamic classes that kids will not forget. And he says later that he would be okay with kids not getting a great grade on a test, but let's say concerning civil rights, but he wants them to know how they can stand up for their rights in the culture. They'll remember the lessons that he taught and how they can put it in practice. Yes, he wants them to do well in the standardized test, but more he wants them to interact, immerse themselves with the material, remember it, and be able to utilize it. And of course, that's what we all want. So that brings us to our last one, which is enthusiasm. Now, this is not a pirate sword. It's just a collapsible wand. But when I use my imagination, it becomes a great pirate saber, maybe a pirate lightsaber. But the idea is always teach with enthusiasm. And he wants to introduce as much as enthusiasm as we can in our teaching roles and creativity. If you'll remember, he started with passion. And as you read the book, you're going to see passion and enthusiasm. It's really kind of the same thing, and it is the same thing. He makes a sandwich of coming in with passion, ending with enthusiasm, and making it throughout everything. And so that is our weapon. It is creativity and enthusiasm. And he tells a story about barbecue. He says, you don't want your enthusiasm to just be sauce on the top, but you want it to be a marinade that goes through. In fact, you want it to be the meat, because the second part of Dave's book that I told you is divided into 3 parts, is all about what he calls the third circle. And so we know that content and preparation and curriculum, those aren't the 2 circles, but they are the 2 circles that are normally associated with curriculum. But the third circle that Dave introduces is called presentation. And that's what I'm doing right now. Are you willing to dress up as a character? Are you willing to rearrange your classroom? Make every lesson a dynamic presentation that they won't forget, that they'll go home talking about. It is a lot of work, but really when you think about it, we can do this at least weekly with our units, and it's worth doing. It's why we got into teaching in the first place. Don't sit back and just get tired and let the kids sit there and soak as you are the sage on the stage, but make it fun, make it real, make it alive. It doesn't have to be a pirate costume. It might be a simulation of a courtroom or a STEAM lesson on how to get a product to market, but get up and move and make it real and memorable for them. So the whole middle part of his division, his book, is on the power of presentation. And that leads us to the third part, which I told you was a surprise. The last third of his book is a list of hooks. That's right. Dave includes a list of all of his favorite hooks. And as you read the book, you're going to see it's kind of an advertisement for his consulting company and for his public speaking. and for his books and websites, but we can do the same thing. Dave went out and worked very hard to create another avenue stream and to help him be a better teacher and help him create better teachers. That was his gift to education. And so in the back, if you buy this book, you'll also get a list of many of his hooks. He has hooks about music. He has hooks about art, drama, reality TV, just so many ideas, food. The list is endless. But if you struggle for ideas, you're going to want to get this book because you can have a list of the ideas to get started. There are so many things out there. It is hard to remember. And he's got some really great ones. I won't share my favorites with you, but you can pick up the book and you can have that list and add to it. But get started with your hooks. Every class needs to have a hook to draw the kids in and make sure it's something they want to learn. You know, first of all, you have to tell them this is something you want to learn, and you have to figure out if it is. And if it's not something they want to learn, you have to hook them and pull them in so that they are motivated and it's relevant to them. It's something they feel is important to them. Otherwise, they're just going to memorize a bunch of facts and then forget them. We all know that. I told you there were just 3 divisions, but really there's one more thing in this book. The last thing in the book that is probably my favorite. It's difficult to say because I did enjoy so much of this book. This is the reason I became a teacher. Many times I've had ideas to wear a costume to school, and I've been embarrassed by the other teachers. What would they say? Who do they think I am? How high am I setting the bar, and can I keep it there? And that's kept me from doing some wild and zany things. You can see I'm prepared to do wild and zany things, but don't let the peer pressure of other teachers get in the way. Think outside of the box and push yourself. What I love about this last book, you can see I just have stickies everywhere. You're going to have them too. He talks about playing your drum, his favorite song being The Little Drummer Boy at Christmas. And that's a great story. And the boy didn't have anything else to bring, so he brought his drum. It's what you do well. What do you do well? What are your hobbies and crafts? Maybe it's knitting and crocheting. Rock that and bring it into the classroom, even if it's art or literature that you're teaching, or PE. Where do I start is the name of one of his things. So this last section I call his gems, and every pirate's got a chest full of gems. Well, he shares a chest full of gems with you. Life isn't 100% or fail. He talks about basketball teams that make the NCAA tournament, and we always think, well, one team won it all, but so many teams did well to get there. So as a teacher, don't feel you always have to succeed, and failure is really one of the best ways we learn. He talks about don't let the critics steal your soul. That's one of the things we talked about before. He's got all these little story pages that share these great stories that you'll remember. When in doubt, take action. Finding a crew, the importance of working together as a team. This is really good. This was just from my last research project here in this class. Collaboration versus collaboration. I don't know how to say that, but you know, others can kill and extinguish your fire and your enthusiasm. Classroom Kung Fu, he talks about how Bruce Lee developed a style based upon stealing from all the other styles. And so he just says, don't get into one style, but just use from all of them and just keep adding to your treasure. Finding treasure. This is resources, and Dave gives you a bunch of them in here. Some links and websites, which I've only begun to follow. And now with Google, there's more and more. He has a team now that is keeping this going and adding to it. There's many, many books that have been written in this series, and he's not been out there too long. Also, be motivated. You can do this. A lot of my peers are doing great stuff with the COVID and online stuff. Share your ideas. I have learned that collaboration is sharing, and I'm not afraid now. And I have shared things with my classmates, and I'm sharing this video with you. I know your time is valuable, and so I wanted to share this important book with you. I hope you go out and teach like a pirate, okay? Now, on the count of 3, in your very best pirate voice, what is the pirate's favorite letter? R. Are you ready to teach like a pirate? I hope you are. I hope you have a great year full of creativity and awesome lessons. And I hope maybe next year I read your name on the title of a book like this, and you get all the treasure you deserve from being a teacher. Some people dream about being pirates and firemen. I know you dreamed of being a teacher. I did too. And let's not be discouraged and run down by lesson plans and state requirements and standardized tests. Let's do what we were called to do, what we were built to do, be teachers and inspire the next generation to be learners and life learners and teachers themselves, because kids really get it when they can teach someone else. Anyhow, I just wanted to share this with you. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day and a great summer and a great year. Jim Zidane.